Hey guys, CreamCrazy here. Welcome to the April Q&A video. I hope you will be looking forward to this, because I sure have. Because I will say this like I said in the predictions video yesterday. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the 34 questions. Officially, my biggest Q&A ever. I've got to thank you guys so much for this, because honestly, it wouldn't be here without you. Also, because of those 34 questions, if you're sitting comfortably, I advise go get a drink, go to the toilet, get some food, because this is bound to be my longest video ever, because normally these Q&As last roughly an hour-ish. I can sense this will last a hell of a lot longer. Well, that's just coming from me. If you don't think so, but yeah, basically it'll last a while, so pause it, go get your stuff. But also I would like to point this out too, because the video freezes a lot, as you all know. Please, for the benefit of your sanity, just put in a tab and listen, because it's a lot easier that way. You don't have to worry about all the weird faces that this damn thing puts on the screen instead of my movement. So hopefully it should be a good thing for you guys. Right, 34 questions to get through. Let's get on with it. First off, from Raylot2. Good on you, man. You're still doing good. Thank you for all your support. He asks, who do you think deserves a World Championship reign but has not got one yet? I've always said to myself, there are three names of three guys who do deserve it. One, Cody Rhodes, simply because he's put people over, he's made the Intercontinental title legitimate again, and it's only a matter of time before he gets one. He could be the next big thing in this company, but we don't know yet, because he hasn't shown too much diversity in his heel gimmick to really show promise in that sector. Second, to be honest, don't know why he wasn't given this in his first go, I have no idea. But Wade Barrett, okay, sure, he's been booked to win Money in the Bank, or he can be certain that he's going to win it. I hope to God he does win this title sooner rather than later, so I can celebrate the fact we have an English champion at last. That would be something fantastic. The other, I would say Kofi Kingston, because he's won everything. Okay, bar Money in the Bank, bar the Royal Rumble, bar the King of the Ring. He's won just about every championship. Both sets of tag team titles, the unified tag team titles. He also won the Intercontinental, US. Basically, the one thing, I don't understand how he hasn't won the main title yet. He's almost ready, in my opinion, to take that one step further. I'm hoping that will be done in the future. Because, Ray, okay, I'm not sure if you're a Kofi fan or not, but even some people, even yourself, we have to admit, Kofi does deserve it. And to be honest, I'm a bit shocked if he doesn't get a title, because another guy who deserves it just won't get given it. It'd be quite sad, wouldn't it? Nintendo Fanboy 1988. Now, you gave me 3 extra questions. I hope you got my my message. They'll be included in next month's Q&A. All good? Sweet. You asked me, how would you book a John Cena heel turn? Now, I mentioned before that the ideal scenario that I would give for a Cena heel turn is for him to basically mentor this young guy. So I was just told in the comment section for my predictions video just now that it would be best if Cena would just be like Austin and Rock after WrestleMania 19, where they never won another world title, where they effectively were just there, putting on good matches, putting people over when they needed to. Or, okay, sure, they haven't wrestled much since, but you see Rock put over Goldberg, and you see just the point I'm getting at. I feel, for the most part, Cena needs to do exactly that, not win the title himself. Mentor some guy, mentor a young guy, possibly mentor someone who you could believe is similar to Cena in terms of aspirations, charisma, that kind of thing. He then, after tag teaming with him, winning a tag team gold, basically doing what he has to do, he then realizes that he's not achieving all he can from this, and he's becoming angry that he's really not going anywhere, making any progress. Even though this kid is showing fantastic promise, he's not really doing anything. And then suddenly, one day, in a match, Cena just snaps, beats the crap out of him. And we wonder, okay, why? Goes out next week on Raw or SmackDown, or wherever he happens to be, and he basically says, point blank, I'm sick of other people following on my coattails. I've been really successful, but over the last couple of years, I haven't been able to prove that I'm one of the best of all time. And he's become so crazed and bitter over the fact that he isn't successful anymore that he wants to strive for it again. And basically, he will take anyone down in his path, and his Super Cena antics will be given the same hatred as usual, but to be honest, it'll be even more intensified once we know we should hate him for it. And I'd basically say I'm just going demolishing as many people as you can. Then, that guy who he beat up eventually gets the stomach to go up to Cena and say, look, you beat me up a while ago. You've been treating everybody else in here like crap. Why can't I get the chance to beat you? You've won the title back now at this point, Cena. I want to beat you and put my stamp on this company for the years to come. And so, big match, big pay-per-view, whether it be Survivor Series, SummerSlam, possibly WrestleMania, Royal Rumble-ish. The guy beats Cena, 1, 2, 3, clean, and then wins a title off him. I would book a heel turn like that, where he basically, Cena is just sick of everything, does what he wants, and eventually gets beaten by the guy who started it all in the first place. It's something that, okay, sure, it might have been done before, but at the same time, it's just for Cena, it's quite refreshing to hear him getting sick of everybody not being really sportsmanlike. It'll be fantastic. Just to basically say it, it'll be something that will be, I would say not, it's done before, but for Cena's character, that would be so refreshing to hear him be selfish for a change. Huh? Wouldn't that be good? Yeah. I think that would just work out perfectly. Your opinion aside, though, you can post in the comment section what you think would happen, and everything might sort itself out. Sean7303 asks, if The Rock had stayed in the WWE, would John Cena have been a big star as he is? And this is a tough question to really go for, because The Rock, when he left, was I think, what, 30, just gone 30-something, 31, I think. He was still relatively young. He could have had, up to this point, God knows how many title reigns. And I think the fact that Rock, Austin, the two big stars, both left, they had the dwarf to fill. I mean, sure, there's Triple H carrying the brand. Then, of course, I wouldn't say The Rock... The fact is, if it was me in a position where, say, okay, Rock's still here, but Brock Lesnar, right, he left... And we know why he left. Of course, he wanted to go to the NFL. He was sick of wrestling. He felt he already accomplished everything. Basically, if Rock was still on Raw, or, to basically put this, if Lesnar was on Raw, and Rock was on SmackDown laying the smacker down, kicking everybody's candy asses, then if Lesnar left, they would need someone to fill in the shoes. And I think they would have just done with what they did and gone with Cena and pushed him. Because if it wasn't for Lesnar leaving, Kurt Angle in general manager position and everything like that, they needed, and of course they put they put the title on JBL as well, don't forget, after Eddie Guerrero won it. So I would have thought it would have happened because of the fact that Lesnar left. If Lesnar hadn't have left, though, it would have never happened. To me, it would have taken a couple of years for Cena to really get there. And he would actually, at this point, just about, I think, reaching what level he is at now. Because Rock would have been on his own with guys like Triple H, Undertaker, Kane, the possibility of Mick Foley still going. Those guys like that would have still been the main figureheads on the big shows. They would have, of course, been split off a bit more. And they would have got their chances. I mean, also Jericho as well. Benoit, Guerrero, those guys would all be there doing their part. But Cena would just be another part of the machine. He'd probably end up being something like what a Swagger or maybe a Del Rio is. He's come up out of nowhere. Or basically, like I've said for Kingston, he's worked his arse off, then gets a title shot, wins it, and then that's how it goes. Cena would have still made it as a big star, but I don't think it would have had the same magnitude. But, like I said, it's all about the fact that Lesnar left. Because Rock, at that point, and Cena, it didn't matter. It's only really when Lesnar left that WWE wanted to make someone bigger. And, to be honest, they made Batista as well as backup, just in case either one of them failed. You see? All worked out. So, yeah, didn't matter about The Rock. It was other people. But if The Rock was still there, nothing else would have changed, I don't think. It still would have been, the gravy train would have still rolled on, as it did. I mean, sure, Cena may not have been as big, but you see my point. It's still very... It's ambiguous to say whether it should have happened. I mean, honestly, if Austin had been buried by Lesnar, just think about how much different the landscape would have looked after that. It's like that question. We don't know. It could have happened, could not have happened. It's all how it goes. Andrew Michael Harris asks, what have you thought of the John Cena-Brock Lesnar feud so far? Now, you did ask me as well, who's going to win this Sunday. If you haven't, go check out my predictions vid, because that's where you're going to find the answer to that part of the question. I think the feud so far has been a bit understated, because usually a big return is treated with a lot of stuff going on. I mean, all Lesnar's really done is talk to Josh Matthews, beat up Josh Matthews, return F5 Cena, punch him in the mouth and bust him open, and sign a contract. Now, to me, in terms of what's going on, in terms of a feud, obviously, not much has really happened, because we know that it's going to explode over the next couple of months, and this is only the first stepping stone of that feud. I mean, so far, it's pretty enjoyable seeing Cena look weak for a change, and to be honest, Lesnar looks, to be honest, quite powerful. He's looking like a legitimate threat. And I've said this before. It's good to see this feud is actually being treated quite slowly, because a lot of people were saying that the match is happening too soon. But then again, with a feud with such little foundation, it's got to be done that way. You've got to keep people interested in a feud which hasn't had the chance to really set off yet. It's after this match tonight at Extreme Rules that we're really going to see where this feud goes. And I like that way of doing it. It's not like Cena Triple H or CM Punk Triple H, where it was done way too quickly. They've realised that this kind of feud, they need to draw it out a bit. And to do that this way, giving the match on, keeps everyone knowing it's something we need to be interested in, and for the most part, we do not know what else is going to come from this. Because we could have a great match tonight. We could see a fantastic match. We could then see Cena coming out next night saying, okay, you beat me, that's fine. You do what you got to do. I'll go off and do something else. And then Lesnar just keeps dragging Cena back in by completely ripping the shit out of him. That's the one way they could go. Other way, they could just basically have Cena rub it in Lesnar's face after you promised all this, that you believed you were that good. I ended up bringing you back down to earth again. And it could then just be Lesnar being furious, beating the shit out of him some more, and making another match happen. The feud so far, like I said, is small, but it has so much potential. Sorry. It has so much potential to be more after tonight, and I'm hoping that the feud so far, because of its minimalist nature, can be something much better down the road. I mean, sure, that's not... I honestly think if they do take this until mid-June, it should be something interesting for us to watch. Definitely. Cancerous Mic Work. Hey, you ask, do you think Daniel Bryan is super overrated? I love how you use super there. It's quite good using a wording there. I'm a Daniel Bryan fan, and a lot of people that I know in the wrestling world, who of course have not watched his Ring of Honor stuff, who don't appreciate in-ring workings, often say, well, Bryan is just basically a small Weasley guy, who, to be honest, I'll agree with on this point. He hasn't really shown in the last while why he is such a good wrestler. Now, we saw Jericho Kingston on Raw a couple of weeks back, or SmackDown a week back or two ago, and it showed why Jericho is so well known in the ring circle. Daniel Bryan, I believe, has not been treated well as champion in the fact that he hasn't been able to show his in-ring work off. So I can understand why some people will think he's a bit overrated, knowing how much people like me praise him. However, knowing what he's capable of on the mic and in the ring, and I often believe he has never put his potential over on the mic as good as he could have, he is overrated. But at the same time, if you're in the know and you understand just how good this guy is, by watching some of his old stuff, you then kind of think, okay, maybe the hype lives up. Because a lot of people, before Punk went into WWE, had the same problem with Punk. Wondering, okay, is Punk worth the hype? The indie IWC guys are putting over, and he's definitely proven he is well worth the hype and more. So maybe Bryan needs a bit longer to kind of show himself to people, to show that he isn't overrated. But in my honest opinion, he isn't overrated. And okay, it's all down to opinion, but for me, he is not overrated in the slightest, although some people do balloon it out to proportions where even I can't believe I support the guy. So hopefully after tonight, he gets a bit more than he got at Mania. Let's just pray for that. Ha, love this name. Real Spider-Man Noir fan. Thank you so much, Nintendo Fanboy 1988, for giving this guy's questions to my attention. Well, actually, yeah, basically, thank you for giving my Q&A some props. Ha! Right, your first question. I actually quite like this. Is Rey Mysterio overrated and leaving the company? Two little questions in one there. That's how I like it. He is overrated. Okay, sure. Mysterio is a legend. He's a guy who's made a career out of being the premier luchador in America. That I can never fault him on. I can never fault him on what he has achieved. The fact is, he's overrated in just about everything else, because his moveset is the same old shit since 1990-something. His gimmick has roughly been the same for 12 years. He is tired, broken down, and practically on the injury bed loads of times, and he's had a suspension recently, because obviously he wants to get back in the ring quickly. In the case of the last 5 or 6 years, his image has been overrated to oblivion and back. And I hate that. People still go on about how brilliant Mysterio is. That, oh, he takes risks, he flies about, therefore he's a fantastic wrestler. Yeah, Ali, you say the same thing about Jeff Hardy, and look what happened there. He's washed up in TNA doing nothing. So, the fact is, everything about Mysterio, apart from his legacy, is overrated. Put that out there. And is he leaving the company? Well, we know the contract problems that he's had over the last couple of years are going to come back to kick him in the ass again. And knowing that he's got a second strike on the wellness policy, he's on thin ice. I feel it would be better for Mysterio to leave, because he doesn't want to end up in a wheelchair. To put that out there, it's simple. The guy will end up in a wheelchair if he makes a wrong move. Or, basically, he wants to stay around to get hold of the monies. But why do you want to stay around in WWE for money if you don't just sign a Legends contract? Because Mysterio, at this point in his career, can and make a few occasional appearances. No one will mind. I won't mind. But seeing him in the ring often is, to me, just way too much. If he leaves the company, it'll be sad to lose a guy who is passionate for the industry, wants to wrestle, but perfect opinion aside, I just don't want to see the guy around every single week on television. And if he leaves, again, it'll be sad, but I won't miss him a lot. I won't miss him a lot. He's got the legacy, which I could say, okay, he's put on some fantastic matches, one of the best cruiserweights ever, I have no issue. But it's just now, he is overrated, he should leave, and to be honest, if he does, that'll make me a lot happier, and I can watch the product knowing that seeing Cara, when he comes back from his injury, hopefully better versed in the American in-ring style, will be able to officially take his place. I mean, sure, I'd love to see a retirement match first from Rey, but we don't know if we can get to that, because we know Edge didn't get one, and no one ever gets that privilege until they know it's the right time. Rapper Triple J asks, which wrestler or wrestlers made you interested in wrestling? Now, I've mentioned this many times before, that without The Rock, I wouldn't have gotten into wrestling as a whole. Because I've mentioned it many times that I never really understood what WWF or wrestling was, and people often talked about how great The Rock was, and I never really understood what was going on, and I never knew what wrestling was, because I had no physical proof of what it was. You just heard from word of mouth from my relatives and people at school, and you never really knew who this guy was. And then, of course, the figures came about, the games, and it all just came flooding in. To be honest, looking on it, though, I got interested in wrestling due to The Rock, and I don't actually like him. It's kind of funny that people often say, oh, this is the wrestler that I first liked when watching wrestling. The fact is, it was The Rock alone that got me knowing about this product. And And I think that's quite strange, that a wrestler got me into it, yet I really don't think highly of him. It is kind of a strange thing, because not a lot of people have that opinion of that kind of thing. That's quite funny. And I often think, okay, I can thank The Rock for bestowing this great product on top of me, but I just don't treat him with the same demigod status that everyone else gives him. And sure, his charisma is there, and it resounded in the popular culture that we've had, especially in 2002. He was riding high in the movie industry, and it got through to me. So that's a good thing. The other fact, though, is I found something funny the other day. Okay, Rock got me interested in wrestling, but I felt, rapper, that my destiny, it was my destiny, to quote Del Rio, to get into wrestling. You know why? Because I was on Wikipedia the other day. This is completely off topic of your question, but it's just something interesting. I was on Wikipedia looking at my name, Freddie Thomas, on Wikipedia, and I found a guy called Fred Thomas, who was a wrestler. I thought, ooh, interesting. Then I found out that Frederick Arthur Thomas, a wrestler who wrestled in the Commonwealth Games in 1962, walked out with a bronze medal. Let me point that out here. That is 3/4 of my full name. One middle name is missing from that, but apart from that, that is my full name, technically. And it's there in a wrestler. So maybe it was my destiny to get into wrestling. I mean, sure, The Rock got me through into the product full time, but that just makes it seem like my destiny. Don't you think? Cool. Super Chesney 198 asks, with WWE Spring Cleaning coming up, if they dump some talent, who do you see being released? There are a few names that jump onto my head. First, JTG, because he's done absolutely nothing recently. Honestly, when Crime Time broke up, you really thought something was going to happen, but nothing ever did. And JTG's been down the bottom, nothing to really shout home about. The guy should just go. Plain and simple. Even though people go on about them, I really don't give a shit about the Usos. I don't think they're going to get dropped, though. I just don't like them. Who else? Johnny Curtis I don't like. I've never understood the point of him. A lot of the guys in FCW that are there, like Eli Cottonwood and Percy Watson and people like that. Okay, I've seen them a few times, but I don't give a shit. They're just low budget talent. Just go. They're not guys like Antonio Cesaro, Cassius Ohno, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins. Those guys from ROH. They're the ones who are going to bloody well put WWE's future on the map. Guys who we saw in NXT for the most part aren't going to get their shot. Darren Young will probably get cut. I do not want to see Kurt Hawkins and Tyler Rex being cut because their comedic relief has been fantastic to have on Raw in the last couple of weeks. I would love to see them axe Hornswoggle, but that ain't going to happen, especially knowing they've put a movie deal for him. Oh, who else? Oh, there's someone on my mind that I can't think of. Caitlyn. Because what the hell has she done lately? I'd love to get rid of Aksana as well, but she's now in a storyline with Cesaro, so I don't know. There's a lot. The fact is, with a roster as big as WWE's, I'd love to be able to say I drop these guys, but the problem is that now I don't know who 2/3 of the modern day roster are because not a lot of them are getting exposure. I mean, actually, I'd even say Evan Bourne gets cut. Because he's now broken his foot that could be career-threatening. He's on a second strike on the wellness policy. It's sad to see him go, but it'll probably happen. I mean, honestly, what is he going to do? I mean, I'd love to see Heath Slater get dropped by the wayside, even though this thing with Flo Rida is getting a little bit of press coverage. I'd hate to see them drop Tyson Kidd and Justin Gabriel, though. That would be a real tragedy, because those two guys can wrestle, and I'd love to see more of them. See, if they weren't all in FCW and NXT, I'd say I'd have a lot more to say, but that list of people hopefully sums everything up for you, man. Awesome Truth 998 asks, Do you think McMahon will give the company to his son Shane, or anybody, and retire? He will do it, but I believe, like I've mentioned a lot of times before, he'll only do this once he basically croaks. Heart attack, stroke, natural causes, that's going to be the thing that kills him. Okay, I'm amazed he hasn't died of stress-related causes already. But McMahon, I believe, will only give up his company once he croaks. He won't retire. I don't know if he will give it to Shane, because he's now obviously proving he's away from the company, doing management of sports stars, Chinese telecom, all that stuff. And I really don't think he'd give it to Stephanie. I really don't think he'd give it to Stephanie either. I think he would give it to Shane if Shane was still involved. If Shane was still a member of the WWE stockholders, shareholders, and a guy on the board of directors, I would give it to him if I was Vince. Because I wouldn't trust the company with Triple H and Steph. Because Shane molded in Vince's image. He knows and understands what the business would need. I mean, sure, Triple H just wrestled in it and worked his way up to the top echelons. You'd be telling me, oh, he's perfect. But then again, if you're a McMahon from birth, you know how to run this company. But at the same time, I look at Stephanie and I think, okay, she's head of creative. She's got enough on her plate. Shane would need to manage telecommunications and all that international stuff, as well as doing that. It would be perfect for him to be chairman, but not be on screen. That would be perfect for him. I'd give it to Shane, but I just don't think he'd actually take it. If you get what I'm saying. How to answer your question? Right. Austin Sanders asks, how long should Sheamus hold the World Heavyweight Championship for? Now, this is quite a good question, because it's very obvious to me that Sheamus is going to hold this for quite a while, because SmackDown needs a legitimate person holding this title. Now, they of course have Randy Orton, but he's held the title so many times already that we don't want him there. Kane is now, well, he can technically go on any brand he wants to because he's Kane. I mean, honestly, he has held it only twice, and yet we got sick of him the second time round from holding a title twice. Then, okay, Del Rio's come in. I'd love to see him hold the world title, which he was destined to win again. But no, it won't happen for a while. Sheamus is a guy who's strong, confident on the mic. He's perfect. He'll hold the title. Basically do what JBL did. Give the title some legitimacy on the brand, and he'll be fine. I mean, sure, when the draft comes along and guys like Miz, I'd even go for R-Truth. I would even go for that. I'd even say bring Kofi over to SmackDown, give him some spot, and bring guys over that you know are going to give him some challenge. And yet he will hold this for a while. But one guy is going to beat him for, I don't know who. I can't even begin to imagine who. Okay, I can imagine Wade Barrett being one, but apart from that, I don't really see who else. As long as they add more challenges, he's going to get much more of an ability to show himself off. I think he'll hold it for a while. I feel he will hold it for at least 8 months. That's quite a long title reign. I stress that is a long title reign. Especially knowing that Daniel Bryan held it from December, January, February, March. And a tiny bit of April. So then you add another 6. 8 months. So it'll take him to next year. But that I would say would be a bit long. I would say Royal Rumble. I'd say Royal Rumble next year would be the best time for him to lose it. Because then someone else carries it to WrestleMania. The best thing to do. I mean, some people are saying he should only hold it for about 2 months or so. But then again, Sheamus is a guy who could carry that belt and do all kinds of good stuff with it. So, yeah, I'd say give him at least 8 months, at least until the Rumble. I'll be happy with that unless they don't build it properly. Because remember, I'm going to be in Falmouth by the time that Rumble comes round. So I'm not going to be entirely sure whether that plays out right, if you get what I'm saying. One of my favourite questions of this entire Q&A coming up. Nintendo Fanboy 1988. How would you react if Hornswoggle won the WWE or World Heavyweight Championship? Okay. I would literally... I said if WWE ever did a Benoit and removed a wrestler's history from the company again, I would, in that manner again, I would stop watching WWE altogether. Okay? The only other time I would say I would boycott wrestling completely is if Hornswoggle won a major title, because that is completely out of order. He is a comic relief character for the little kids. He does not deserve to win that title. He's not even a heavyweight. He's not even a cruiserweight. He's not even a featherweight. The guy is basically a tub of lard. A small one at that, but he does not deserve to win a major title. If he does, I will boycott. I would boycott WWE until it ends. And then I go back in. Simple. Simple as that. I would probably throw my computer through the TV first and wake up everybody in the house, especially if it was on pay-per-view. But if it only happened for a day, I'd be literally saying... Actually, to be honest, the opinion I've got will be the same like everyone else's. They would go, oh, this is outrage! This is awful! Oh, this is an outrage, to quote Mighty Bush. But everybody would just shit on it and say, WWE, you are stupid, and everyone else will do the same. They will boycott it. And the WWE will go, oh crap, we made the wrong decision, and just get rid of it. That would be fine. But if WWE ever did it, I'd be lost for words. I'd be completely lost for words if they did that. I mean, just thinking about it makes me want to punch this screen right now, which I bet has frozen. I want to just basically say, if it ever happens, you could believe me, I'd be on here first, renouncing my fandom temporarily. It'll happen. Lo and behold, it'll happen. But fucking hell, I hope to God it never happens. Ever. I hope you lot are feeling the same way as well. Largest 85 asking, what would your reaction be if you were watching a Kelly match and she accidentally got busted open and bled like Mick Foley would? Now that is a very interesting question, Largest, because you actually said that I'd be quite worried. You'd be quite worried about it because you don't want Kelly being hurt and all that kind of stuff. If she did, I would love to see the way that she handled it, because okay, when AJ punched the shit out of Natalya recently on SmackDown, it was, I don't know if it was intentional, but she was in a bloody mess and had to be tended to by the paramedics. That's simple. The one thing is, if mid-match she was busted open the hard way, and divas are not known for being bloody and busted open, if she did, I would love her as a diva to give her much more spunk and attitude, to just say, oh, basically, F you, paramedic referee guy, I'm going to fight. That, I would love to see that. I would react thinking, okay, at first I go, oh shit, how the hell did that happen? I'd be a bit shocked, thinking, wow, they actually managed to make a diva bust open. It might have been a work, it might not have been. But I'd love to just see how she would do it. How she would react. Would we see the blood pouring down her face, her just getting angry, and just punching the shit out of somebody, knowing she's tasted her own blood? Would it be interesting? Yes. Give her another side and attitude. Make everyone else go, okay, she's not just a happy-go-lucky, mild-mannered girl that we expect, and she does a few cartwheels and flips and stuff. She actually has a bit of a backbone. She's got attitude. And that would be lovely to see. From a Divas division which has lacked a kick up the arse, that would be definitely it. That would be an unintentional kick up the arse. Because, okay, say if Michelle McCool or Layla got busted open. I'm actually wondering, when the hell are those two coming back? If those two had their heads busted open, they would go, I'm bleeding, somebody help me. And that would just be the typical for them as heel divas. But just imagine Kelly just going out there going, I'm bleeding, but I don't give a shit, I'm going on. That would be fun, wouldn't it? I mean, honestly, would you want to see that? Would any of you listening and or watching this video, would you want to see that? Comment section down below. It's something I would love to see play out. Because giving her a bit of attitude to a diva to make this more exciting is, I'm all for it. Simple. Real Spider-Man noir fan. I'm trying to get that wrong now. What are your thoughts on K-Quick, the man who is now known as R-Truth? R-Truth, I say his mic work, while it is extremely abstract, erratic, and weird, simply one of the best mic workers WWE have right now, because you laugh at his jokes. I do anyway. I find him quite eccentric. And R-Truth generally is, okay, his moveset is very showy. He doesn't have a lot of technical wherewithal about him, even though I know as Ron Killings, he did make a killing out of showing how good he was. He's got the charisma, no doubt, but he needs to show more in-ring work off to prove himself more as being an all-rounded guy in the company, because he's basically a guy who's a comedic relief slash good charismatic mic worker. He hasn't got the placement in ring for anyone to take him seriously, and once he gets that done, everything will work out fine for him. I mean, he's already quite massive in terms of fan base, because the little Jimmy has made him quite popular. But I wouldn't be too. I'd be a bit worried if he doesn't show how good he really is in the ring to warrant more title reigns, if you get what I'm saying. Playlist Maker SG now, he asks, are Michael McGillicuddy and Tyson Kidd ready to get a push? Now that, I can split it in two ways. Tyson Kidd deserves a push. Great in-ring worker. Decent mic work if given the time to hone it. I'd give him the push. Definitely. Michael McGillicuddy, on the other hand, is the complete... Basically, his in-ring work is solid. It's not the best in the world, but knowing that you're the son of Mr. Perfect, he was overhyped by a lot of people. He's very basic in the ring. Very simple. And on the mic, he is so bad. So bad on the mic. Michael McGillicuddy needs a hell of a lot more work to get a push done out of him. He has got so much more work to do than Tyson Kidd. Because Tyson Kidd, the last guy to ever be tutored in the Hard Dungeon, he knows how to go in the ring. He definitely needs to make sure his mic work holds up, and he'll be fine. With the right gimmick, he will be fine. A Brian Kendrick style role with the manager. Hell, he already tried to do something like that with Michael P.S. Hayes as his manager. Or even with Armando Estrada. Why didn't they push on with that? That was perfect to get him forward. But he is definitely ready. Tyson Kidd is ready. McGillicuddy needs a lot more work. Definitely. I'm running out of breath, and I realised I forgot to bring a bottle of water up. It's crazy shit. I'll answer this next question, and I will probably then just go get a glass of water and come back upstairs. Hope you guys don't mind that. Nintendo Fanboy 1988, I believe this is your last question. Let's have a look. I'm just scrolling through. Yep, your last question here. And you ask, what are your thoughts on Raven? A guy who gets audiences very divided. Now, I have to say, as a mic worker, this guy is spectacular. Great mic worker, great brooding intensity to some of the stuff he did in ECW, as well as some of the TNA stuff. His feud with Larry Zbyszko, bloody hell. I didn't even watch TNA at that time, and I loved that. When I watched clips of it on YouTube, I liked that. That was a decent feud, very intense boss versus wrestler feud. That was, to be honest, had a lot of angst in it. Loved it. However, as an in-ring wrestler, I've never been truly convinced that this guy was, to be honest, better than mediocre. I mean, he's got some decent with Raven's Edge, good DDT, but I've not really seen enough of his in-ring work, because the guy is a hardcore wrestler. He has never really been touted as a big wrestler in terms of in-ring work. I mean, if you guys have seen him enough, could you give me a legitimate notion of how good this guy is? Because I've never really seen much to write home about him in ring-wise. I mean, sure, in terms of gimmick and promos, the guy can do it not like many other can. But look at his title record. In WWE, he was a 23-time hardcore champion. He didn't really get... Because I think they saw what I'm saying, is that in ring, he hasn't got much to offer. And, yeah, it's followed him all the way. He's got a legacy as a hardcore wrestler, as a great promo worker, but... in-ring work I am very high on someone having good in-ring work. There's a reason why I don't feel The Rock is one of the best wrestlers of all time, despite what he's given in terms of mainstream appeal and great promo segments. That, to me, is not what makes a great wrestler. What makes a great wrestler is in-ring work, and Raven has lacked that. Raven lacked that, and to be honest, without that, I cannot really take you guys too seriously. And guys, at the 40-minute mark, I've been going on since then. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I'm just going to quickly go get my drink. But basically, if you've loaded up this video enough, just fast forward until you see my face back on the screen again. See you in a minute. So this is where a lack of editing technology really does come to bite you in the arse. Ah, and we're back. Haha! See, if I had the ability to edit that 1 minute and 30 seconds out, there wouldn't be too much of a problem. But honestly, I do these without having to bother about that shit. So that's why, just if basically fast forward for the next second or two. Right, I needed that. Next, Playdersmaker SG, your next question. What are your thoughts on Cody Rhodes? Now, this guy, I've said before, future world champion in the making. Fantastic in-ring worker. Great promo guy if given the right gimmick and the right time. However, I have stressed this already today that the guy's heel promos and heel mannerisms are very samey. They never really change and differentiate. That's the issue I really have with Cody. He needs to show diversity in playing the role he's playing. Because if you can't do that, you can't really be expected to go to the top echelons of the company. I mean, sure, Cena hasn't showed diversity in his act for ages. But then again, you know why he doesn't do it. It's annoying for Cody that he's at least stuck in a feud with Big Show. I mean, he could be far worse, like Ted DiBiase. He wasn't having him since. And I think Cody is a great guy in ring, on the mic. Everything's good about him. But the minute he shows that diversity, he'll be fine. He'll be there in the top bracket, getting everything he needs to be given to him. Simple. Real Spider-Man Noir fan, your last question. Thank you for giving me these in, by the way. Hope you stick around for the next Q&A and watch my other videos when they come about. Is William Regal awesome or what? Love the enthusiasm on that. Yeah, Regal is awesome. One of the most underrated wrestlers in the last 10 years. Some great matches have come from him. And he's been open 2 consecutive WrestleManias and put on great matches, putting Jericho and Van Damme over. He, sure, has issues with drugs and everything, but everyone knows you can get a good match out of the guy. I would love to see Daniel Bryan wrestle him. I'd love to see that. Who wouldn't love to see that? I think the guy has still got a few more years in him. And his mic work, actually, when you look back at the Alliance storyline, just a lot of the Alliance invasion, the mic work the guy did was great. His mannerisms were fantastic. His gimmick was perfect. I'm sure he's now basically a face, but at the same time, he still has that intensity, which I have a lot of respect for. Regal, he is awesome. Good on you. That's a fantastic way to end that question. Rohit Yadav. Again, another question from you. Thank you, Facebook, for that one. Sweat my screen. Right. What are your thoughts on Ryback and Lord Tensai? Tensai, formerly Albert and A-Train. Interesting. He's been put over strongly, and I like that. For a strong heel, The only thing is that the crowd are not giving two shits. Now, he beat Cena. That should have been something to put him over even bigger with the fans. Go, oh, we hate this guy because he beat Cena. Well, the little kids should. But I don't know why. Okay, I really don't understand why the fans haven't hooked onto this as they should have. Maybe he hasn't done much in the ring apart from hit a few big power moves and then hit the claw on the guy. I don't know. I don't know what the guy's lacking. I mean, he's Albert, he's A-Train, he's Giant Bernard. He's one of the best big men in the whole wrestling industry. But the character is lacking something. I just really don't know what. Maybe he hasn't spoken. Maybe the music is just... Maybe the music sucks. Maybe because we know he's American, but doing a Japanese gimmick. I don't know what's up with that character. I really don't. So, honestly, I need to figure out what the hell WWE is going to do with Lord Tensai. Because if he's going to be put over quite strongly, then they need to basically find every single fault with the character and how it negatively goes across to us. And then fix it and make him quite big. Because he's going to be big. He's obviously got the experience. People trust him in ring. He should be decent. But no, I don't know what's going to happen with that guy. I have no clue. Ryback, formerly Skip Sheffield. Definitely understand why this guy's getting pushed quite big with big squash matches. I'd love to see the guy actually fight Big Show. Because okay, if he came back as Skip Sheffield, people know who he is, and if he beat up Wade Barrett, that would be fine. Beat up Wade Barrett, get a starter feud. He then fights Big Show for the Intercontinental title. Strong big man versus big man. Okay, we've done that before in Wade Barrett, Big Zeke. But it'll give him a standing. Because at the minute, he's just beating up guys. Very nice. He's fast. I'll give him that. I'll give Skip that. He is pretty quick. A bit nimble on his feet. His moves, strong and powerful, but with a bit of speed in, are very nice. Kind of like Mason Ryan in a way. And I feel... I want to see this guy succeed. Because even though his mic work is a bit limited, he can still work on it. Because when he was with the Nexus, his mic work was passionate, out there, people actually did listen to him. Unlike Otunga. So, I would love to see what they do with Ryback. Don't know what they're going to do, but I'd love to see what happens. I mean, basically... Ryback, Big Zeke, and Mason Ryan. How good of a giant force as a faction would they be? They're not being used right now. I might as well think that's a fantastic way of using them, don't you think? Three big young guys. Big Zeke at least had some practice on the mic. He can at least be their leader in a way. Reciting from the book of Ezekiel that all three of these guys could make it big and that they're going to demolish everyone who gets in their way. WWE, again, you're not listening to my ideas, damn it. Accept viewer submissions. I'll be gladly helping you out with any creative dilemma you possibly have with any of your stars. Honestly. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favourite questions, probably my favourite question in this Q&A. Catchus Mikework asks, how would fans react if CM Punk got caught with heroin or cocaine on his person, or got busted for a DUI? Now, we know that Punk is straight edge. Of course, you know I'm wearing this t-shirt. People actually do ask me, I know some of my friends have, this straight edge thing is a gimmick. He is not straight edge outside of the company. And you know that Chris Brown highlighted this to Punk. Look, you say you're straight edge, but I bet you just take steroids like everyone else. And the fact is, what we saw on Raw this past week was shocking, because we know Punk is straight edge. And the fact that we saw him drunk, you think, wow, what has this guy sunk to? And I think the casual fans who have not embraced Punk like I have, or not embraced straight edge like I have, would say, okay, it proves this was a gimmick all along. And they'd say, okay, it's not a problem for me. It's just another guy proven he's not the gimmick he's portraying. then again, Serena got fired thanks to that, so anything's up for it. And the best people just go, wow, Punk, what have you done, man? But obviously, we know he is straight edge, it's not just a gimmick. So people will be a bit shocked thinking, wow, he's been straight edge most of his life, and yet he's just gone downhill. I mean, that's shocking. For me, I'd be mortified, personally, because I am straight edge. I'm a person who, thanks to Punk, has been greatly inspired. I mean, obviously, I was straight edge before Punk was on television. Technically, I just didn't have a name for it. And I'd be really disheartened. I'd be really down. I'd be really upset, actually, if Punk got caught with cocaine or heroin on him and busted for DUI, stuff like that. I'd be really disappointed in him. Because I put so much passion, energy into him as a wrestling fan, knowing ideologically and wrestling-wise, we're both on the same page. Because he isn't going to do alcohol and drugs and all that stuff, and he wants the best for the industry, to be entertaining for us. That's what I want. We're both on the same page, but to see him go against the straight edge that he's been pioneering to everybody, it's inspired so many people. It would make me and a lot of people be very angry with him. I don't think if that did happen to him, I would not be able to say he'd be my favourite wrestler anymore. I would actually say that's taken a huge chunk of respect from him, from me. And I wouldn't hold the guy in the same regard if that ever happened. Now, okay, sure, if he was covering for someone else and they didn't want to get caught, he was willing to put his arse on the line for someone else, then I would think, okay, there's no issue there. It was because of a technicality, all works out. If it was actually legitimate that he was caught with this stuff and he was not straight edge anymore, I would be very, very, very depressed by it. And that's how it goes. Simple. I'm gonna have a swig of water because I'm running out of breath. 52 minutes in. And I'm only on question 19 of 34. Holy fuck. Oh, God. That chili is really starting to hit me now. MSDC Punk. Hey! Thank you for your questions, man. Good to know you're supporting me still. Do you think the emergence of John Laurinaitis, the promotion of Triple H to COO, and the return of Brock Lesnar have made Punk's promo last year look more of a work and taken something away from its impact? Well, to put this forward, the impact Punk's promo had was astra-fucking-nomical. Looking back on it now, nearly a year on. And I have to say that he's saying there was a lot of ass kissers. There's a lot of guys who will basically bend over backwards, do what the boss says. And the fact is, it does look more of a work. That guys, he wanted to make sure that WWE was better because he's put this all out in the open. And at the time, I was thinking, yeah, go on. You're the guy who's going to do this. You're the guy who's going to make the changes happen. But then again, it looks more of a work because these guys who are now up into the place, Laurinaitis and Triple H, they're the ones who are reaping from that promo. They're the ones who, if it wasn't for Punk, wouldn't technically be in the positions they're in at the moment. And it makes it look like a work because nothing that Punk has said, apart from him being champion again, and more fan interest really going into the product, has really occurred. Okay, sure, now he's a major face in the product, but he's still not on the programs, he's still not on the cups. The fact is, it looks like it was just a way to get people to pay attention to Punk, and that's true. And then seeing a guy like Lesnar come over and overshadow Punk's position as champion, you gotta honestly think, yeah, this is definitely a work. The promo is definitely a work. It's taken away from his impact. Definitely. 100%. Looking on that now, I 100% agree with you on that. Definitely it has. And that's quite sad because it's one of the best moments in wrestling that I can ever remember. If you look back at my CM Punk is God video, you will definitely see my point. Because that proves it completely. It was a great moment for wrestling fans. And the fact that it's now officially a work, and it's just, the impact is really not there anymore. And that's really depressing. Because, honestly, I wanted to see a revolution. The children of the new revolution changing everything. But, Obviously, the same brass who kiss ass are still up there at the top, so we can see why it hasn't happened. Super Chasney 198, your next question. I'm on 21st question now. Hey, do you agree with the statement that The Undertaker has never really reached his potential? Not nearly enough title reigns and a career, unfortunately, looking back on it, just not being on the same level as Austin, Rock and Triple H. Title reigns, yes, because Taker has only really received a lot of title reigns in the last couple of years. Between 1990 and 2002, he only held the WWE Championship 4 times. Since then, he has held the world title, I think, the World Heavyweight Championship 4 times. The Undertaker, I believe, has done the right thing. Where his career... I mean, unlike... Okay, Triple H, Austin and Rock won titles, quick succession, all the time. They won it a lot. They put on main event level matches all the time. They didn't really stray out of main event feuds a lot. But what Taker has done, I believe, is he's been in the main event since the early 90s. He's a guy who's planned out his career to the point where he will be willing to carry the company forward if they're in a crisis or need a guy like him, someone fresh in a title picture. He'll be willing to step up and take it. He's put on, in the mid-card or the upper mid-card, some fantastic matches. Non-title matches. He doesn't need a title to make his matches important. And his career, people would say, isn't in terms of ginormic, epic win in terms of the accolades he's been given, title-wise. Because Rock, Austin, Triple H, all 6, 7, and 8 WWE Championship reigns. And also, not to mention, Triple H has about 5 more world titles as well to his name. So, those guys on title success can be proven as better than Undertaker, that they reach their full potential as title winners. But Taker used his potential as a fantastic in-ring worker, a fantastic embracer of kayfabe, a fantastic psychologist in wrestling, to effectively make himself apart from those. That Taker is now, in many people's opinion, the biggest entity in wrestling. And if it wasn't for him willing to step aside and let others do the stuff at the main event level, he would not have been able to, 1, make that happen, and 2, make his career last longer. Because Rock's career only lasted about 6, 7, 8 years, roughly. That's 6 years. Austin's okay, he started in the 80s, but it only really got massive once the Stone Cold stuff came around and his career really picked up. I mean, sure, he had a few good matches in WCW and ECW with Brian Pillman, but we don't often remember those. Triple H, exactly the same. WWE, he only really got massive around the turn of the last decade. So, with Undertaker, he's consistently reached his potential and more. Because in the last couple of years at WrestleMania, he's proven he's a better wrestler than just about everybody on the entire roster. And you've got to give the guy respect for that. Everybody's got to give the guy respect for that. Because people may say, accolade-wise, okay, he's not won everything. He's not had the most perfect career. He has had a few injuries, personal problems. He's had a time where he didn't win much. He was stuck in a few gimmicks. Hell, 2003, he actually didn't win a single title, even though he technically could have. He put Lesnar over more times than you could possibly imagine in 2002, 2003. He made Cena quite massive on the front on SmackDown. The fact is, Taker has, looking back on his career, in my opinion, reached the potential and more, and he's definitely proven that his career will outlive many more. His career is the best, and sure, he may not have reached everything that he could have reached, but in my eyes and a lot of others, he's definitely proven his worth, and it's something we've got to keep in mind. He is definitely one of the all-time greats, no question, and it's his career as an understated giant in the industry is the reason why, in many people's eyes, he has achieved that potential. And we got half a second until we reach the hour mark, and I have not fully gotten through the last lot of questions. Holy shit, there's still a lot more to go, people. Hope you're still listening. Still focusing on The Undertaker, the Space Boy 19, emphatically stressing that it is in capital letters from the first the. Love just pointing that out. Who do you think The Undertaker should face at WrestleMania 29? And there's the hour mark. Hey. Right. I've said this before. He should face Wade Barrett, knowing the history they've had and the ability to put Wade over a bit. Because, honestly, he buried him alive. He should do it. But it's not going to happen. Many people are saying it'll be Brock Rock, Austin Punk, and Cena Undertaker next year. I will be going to said WrestleMania. I wouldn't mind seeing all 3 of those matches. But as a person looking forward to the future, I would rather see Wade Barrett do it. Definitely. Especially if Wade wins the title this year. Because think about it. He wins Money in the Bank. Wins the title. Taker then sees an opportunity. You screwed me out of the title in a match against my brother, a man who I hate and a man who I wanted to bury alive. You buried me alive, Wade. Now, I'm going to take something precious away from you. Your title. Story for WrestleMania of bitter revenge for Barrett is set. That if he cannot keep that title, he has to beat the streak and he has to keep his career on the map. The match would keep him on the map and people would make sure that he is a WWE top guy for the years to come. That is what I would prefer. But they're going to go with Cena because they know how much of a moneymaker it's going to be. But I am absolutely fine with that because seeing how Cena reacts in a WrestleMania match against Taker, that will be something I would pay to watch a lot of times over because I wonder how WWE would put that over. Because if Rock can beat him and Taker can't, anything's possible on that front. Rapper Triple J, your next question. If you could bring one wrestler back from the dead, who would it be and why? There have been a lot of wrestlers who have died over the years, but there's only one I can bring back. Chris Benoit. 1. Fantastic in-ring worker. One of my favourites of all time. That's the second point. And 3rd, it would also mean I could say to people, you gotta erase all this negative shit. Basically, it'll be his career back in the WWE in the forefront. And also, he'd be able to train people for the future with his great insight. I would have that any day. Over anyone. Over any wrestler. Over Owen Hart. Over Eddie Guerrero. Even though I'd love to see Eddie back, Benoit just takes precedence for me. And a load of others. A load of others. I would even love to see Crash Holly back. But no. To me, Benoit will always win out in the which wrestler would you bring back from the dead argument. Always. Because if he's in my top 3, gotta have some preference there. Yes, I know, people, you're gonna probably spew some Benoit hate down there in the comments section. To me, it's bulletproof, that hate. Oh yeah, the Benoit tragedy video. I'm not gonna fully go into things until that video comes up. So if you wanna throw your Benoit hate, I advise throw it to me now because you're not gonna be allowed to put any forward when that video comes out. MSDC Punk, again, your next question. If the WWE were to create a new stable or group to encapsulate the new era of people power, who would be in it and what would their gimmick be? Now, Laurinaitis would have to be the main guy in this because he's the guy who bloody well encapsulated and puts forward that ideological perspective. Because it's obvious that these guys that he's putting forward are not what we want to see. Just being a heel guy trying to mask over that we want this shit. Otunga will be part of it. Seeing as Mark Henry and Del Rio have kissed his ass, I put them in it as well. I would put Brock Lesnar in because obviously Laurinaitis brought him back. I would say that maybe Christian. Maybe Christian. And I would basically the people who kissed his ass at Elimination Chamber plus Brock Lesnar, basically. Sorry about that. And I don't know what the gimmick would be. Would they just be like the corporation was. Heels are... Well, actually, the corporation... The heels weren't really kissing Vince McMahon's ass. They were just going out there and doing what he wanted. These guys would actually be kissing John Laurinaitis' ass every time they stepped anywhere in the building. And they'll basically be just going out there, doing what Laurinaitis tells them to do, and hoping that they get success from it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, at any point, would be where their downfall would come in. They would be realising, after kissing Laurinaitis' ass and doing what he told them to do, he would go, hold on a second. One guy would say, maybe Otunga, to go face, would say, hold on a minute here. Okay, sure. I'm married to Jennifer Hudson. I've got a young kid at home. Everything's going well for me. But in this company, I've been kissing your ass as your legal console for that long. And helping these guys try and achieve what they want to achieve. But we're all agreeing here. What the hell is being your friend done for me? Apart from making me universally hated. I want to do something more. I want to become a big star in this company. And I feel that you're leaving me behind. They will then get sick of him, try and take Laurinaitis out, but then he'll hire someone else in through the influence of money and higher perks to do the exact same. And it would then create an anti-Laurinaitis stable out of some of those guys and a few others they drag in. That would be a storyline I would pay to see, because it'd be fun. Yeah, WWE, try picking out things like that. See, again, why am I not a booker? See, they wouldn't even come up with shit like this, would they? And it's because of these types of questions. This is the thing I love Q&As for. It makes my mind just twirl around, the gears just start turning. This is why I love Q&As, people. This is why. That's why I should just... This is why WWE needs a fan envoy. Someone to listen to every perception of what the fans are doing and wanting, and then say, okay, guys, your storylines are okay. This is what the fans are saying could be useful to us. Because we do what we pay for all this shit that you guys make money off, WWE. Just... Seriously, you wouldn't have come up with this people power stable group idea if MSDC Punk had not given it to me. Thank you, man, for this fantastic question. 84, big fella. Good to know your question has finally sprung upon me. With WrestleMania being as huge as it is, do you basically think WWE won't put as much effort into booking and promoting the pay-per-view because it does so by itself? In my opinion, the next few years, the pay-per-view will continue to sell itself. An old superstar, i.e. Rock and Austin, will be brought in to sell a few more buys. Lazy WWE, in your opinion. I'm sure WrestleMania will be selling itself. It always will do. It'll sell itself every year. But WWE wants more than it's selling itself. It wants to get people in, and it's going to happen. They're going to bring some people. I understand that's true. The only thing I'm worried about, though, is something that has recently come into my mind. That the WWE often feel... I mean, this is to me. They know and acknowledge that UFC have taken some of their fan base away. And they know that that's a bad thing. But they often get the wrong assumption, in my opinion, that as fans, we are loyal worshippers and that we will buy every single pay-per-view. And obviously that is not going to happen. And he's obviously noticed there's been a lack in pay-per-view buys recently. And he's saying to himself, okay, I understand UFC might be a reason, but their pay-per-view buys have dropped, so that in the latest stockholder meeting this week, he will be saying these guys who are loyal fans will still buy the product anyway. But in honest opinion, he is failing to see. He doesn't promote many of his pay-per-views anyway. He doesn't promote most of the pay-per-views in a year-long cycle. He expects us to buy it with only half the card announced. He expects us to say, okay, you're a fan, you watch my product, therefore watch it pay off every month on pay-per-view. Fact is, I'm only buying the pay-per-views not just because I am a fan, but because I have a duty as a YouTube critic, as a YouTube shooter, as a YouTube reviewer, to give the people who subscribe to my videos reviews of the current contemporary product. That's what I do. And I, of course, am still a fan. But, to be honest, if it wasn't for doing this, I would not have the enthusiasm to be as interested in the product, or in fact buy a pay-per-view every month, knowing some of the shit you guys pull on. And this proves how important it is for me as a wrestling fan to stay with this YouTube stuff. Because without it, where the hell would I be as a wrestling fan? I'm still passionate about it. Going to indie shows in the UK bolsters my enthusiasm for wrestling as a whole. But WWE cannot expect me and a load of other people to buy it when we have not been given the best of what we can offer. Because why are you think... Okay, sure. Mark P said this perfectly on his prediction video for Extreme Rules, that, okay, I would like to see Lesnar Cena, but the pay-per-view hasn't really done much to effectively make me say, yeah, I want to see it. I really go... Basically, we're not on the edge of our seats going, yes, we want to see this. Because WrestleMania, as we know, we always watch it. We never stray away from it. It'll always sell itself well, and they'll bring all kinds of tactics to do it. But it's the, like I said, it's the other shows I'm concerned about. It's the other pay-per-views that are really in danger of us saying, because apart from the big four, no one gets interested. And that's just where they need to start building again. So, honestly, promoting and booking a pay-per-view is important, but they need to do it for every pay-per-view, not just one. I have breath again. Maybe it's just me, the fact I haven't sat up straight, because I'm on the edge of my bed here. Oh God, it hurts to talk anymore. But I've got now, I believe, yeah, I've got around 8 questions to go now. This hasn't got too long to go. Right, Raylot 2, your last question. I think you only gave me 2 this time. Still, decent questions nonetheless. Do you think the state of Mississippi, which is I believe where you're from, I think, will ever get a WrestleMania or SummerSlam? Now, I did some research on this in the week, because I like knowing where big stadiums and arenas lie. Now, I did some research online, just like I do, and I looked on the Wikipedia stadium list for each state, stadium and arena list, and I looked at the attendances, and I came to this conclusion, Ray. Your arenas have not got a big enough attendance for SummerSlam, because most of the arenas are around 10,000-ish, and WWE likes packing in at least 12 to 14 to 16 to 18,000 at least for pay-per-views, that kind of stuff. For WrestleMania, you've got stadiums around 60, 70,000, but in terms of their shape being for the most part open absolutely everywhere, it would be very unlikely that they would come there to Mississippi. Plus, it's very floodplain, very likely to flood in the area with the Mississippi River flooding through it. You've got, I don't know if it's part of tornado country, but it's near Alabama and Oklahoma and all those states. Dangerous for WWE to put a WrestleMania on that in this time of year. It just feels like the arena, they know that for house shows it's fine because the arenas are the right small capacity for it, that it would sell out. But I don't think I don't think the state's resources for it are good enough that they would say, okay, we're holding SummerSlam and WrestleMania here. Hope that answers your question, because that's all I could come up with for it. Rapper Triple J, your last question. What are some of your all-time favourite WrestleMania matches? Now, I can name 5 off the top of my head that I would at any spot put these in my top 5. Rock and Austin, WrestleMania 17. Me and my friend, who were at one point in the summer, are going to debate the technical wrestling versus violence attitude era argument. Him and I both agreed that it's the most perfect notion of both, where it is a violent match with some great in-ring psychology and storytelling in a technical match sense. It's perfect. Austin Hart, WrestleMania 13. To be honest, I need to watch it again, because apart from the end, I can't remember too much of it, but when I watched it the first time, I absolutely loved it. I need to watch it again, people. I really do. Basically, any match Benoit's been in. To put that out there, I would say that at any point. Well, not every match he's been in. He's been in a few duds. The tag team match at WrestleMania 19. If I was going to pick a Benoit match, I would probably go for the WrestleMania X7 one, or the WrestleMania 20 main event. WrestleMania 20 main event, I'd definitely stick in there. Angle Michaels. Hands down, one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Same with Money in the Bank 1. I've gone over 5 at this point, I understand, but I can go on. TLC 2. Edge Foley, definitely one of the best I've ever seen in terms of hardcore. Both the Taker matches, both the Triple H Undertaker matches, well, the Taker HBK match, I suppose to say. Taker Edge, underrated, but I need to watch again to really get a fair assumption of it. There are a load of matches, and at one point, I bet we'll have to go into an in-depth review for each one to make a full... I need to make a full list. Hell, I would even say this. Steamboat Savage has to be simple. I need to... The thing is, I must stress this, right? Most of the WrestleManias I remember are ones from the best since 2000. Because prior to that, I haven't got too much interest in them, because they've always been... Because up until WrestleMania X7, WrestleMania was always really about multiple matches, rather than one really good match to outshine them all, kind of thing. I mean, WrestleMania X8 didn't even have that. So, I need to go back and watch my WrestleManias again. I really need to. So, I've named some off the top of my head. I need to watch a lot more. So, this is just me as a wrestling fan coming to the assumption that I need to really watch back again. Because, I've said this before, if the product today isn't up to scratch, watch the old DVDs and remind yourself just why you watch the stuff. Simple. I really need to watch more of the old WrestleManias. I really do. Even though a lot of them are quite subpar. Super Chasney 198, your last question. Andy Levine, or Levine, got released from FCW. What are your thoughts on this? Did Tough Enough effectively fail? I never really saw much of this guy. I didn't watch Tough Enough. I honestly think if the runner-up got more of a reception from guys who did watch Tough Enough, they made the wrong decision on it. And honestly, if the guy didn't show enough potential to be immediately put back in FCW, unlike Maven, who was put immediately on the front line, along with Lydia as well. She was put as the girlfriend of the one person called Jamie Noble. People like that. They were given the spotlight. He obviously was seen as not good enough, and he proved he wasn't very good. He had a lot of issues with drugs, and he even got suspended for a wellness violation before his career even kicked off. So, yeah. I honestly don't care about the guy, and I really don't matter. It doesn't really matter. He didn't make an impact on me. I don't care. However, did Tough Enough fail? The reason why Tough Enough failed for me was well, let me just point it out this way. They tried to make it a half and half between real life and the kayfabe notion of understanding wrestling from the inside and explaining all that goes on in the making of professional wrestling. That was all good. Fact is, I never watched enough Tough Enough in general to really understand how the show interacted. The good thing was it was definitely not like what NXT has become, and also what Tough Enough was in its last year in 2004. It at least was more of a legitimate show. Austin hosting, Booker T and Trish Stratus, two of the most successful wrestlers of all time, as trainers. And also Bill DeMott has been all over the place. Good to have him on board. That made the show at least legitimate to watch. I just didn't have any want to watch it. So, in my opinion, it at least looked successful. But it's more or less looking at how the winner was treated. The legitimacy for the show just gets completely dropped by the wayside. And it basically proves it sucks. To put that out there, I really don't think I'm going to watch it. I really don't. I think it did fail because if the winner's been released, it shows that it was a complete waste of time for us. Simple. It did fail on one end, but it didn't fail on another. I hope that makes sense. Largest 85. A very simple question that you asked me. I don't know if you were joking, because you obviously know the answer. Do you watch TNA Impact? No, I don't, and I'm going to quickly move on to the next one. Sorry, mate, but you gave me this question. I answered it. Sorry, I just had to basically answer it, because you should know by now I don't watch TNA. You know my reasons why. Go back, watch my other videos if you don't know why. Yeah, you know, just I don't watch TNA. Simple. Awesome Truth 998. Your last question here. Do you think WWE will buy out TNA and or ROH anytime soon like they did with WCW? TNA, I've always said, is now on the brink of destruction. Their ratings are below the 1.0s. Spike are going to get sick of them, and once they pull the plug, WWE will pounce. Like the proverbial tiger that they are, looking on that gazelle of TNA thinking, okay, it's wounded. It's had a bit of a scrape with a cheetah. It's somehow managed to escape. It's been bitten and spit out, and we're thinking, okay, it's still living. But when it's down, shall I kick it some more, take up all its assets, and yay, everything's fine. That's likely to happen. And I feel it will happen eventually. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it will. Ring of Honor. MJ has been telling me that Ring of Honor's product, before he stopped reviewing it, was really poor. And people are saying that Ring of Honor has... people have been saying Ring of Honor is a shell of its former self. Austin Aries said that. And the fact is, I haven't watched enough of it to really say if it is failing enough, but if the fans are losing trust in an indie fed that at one point was the jewel of wrestlers, that yep, you don't want WWE or TNA and can't be asked to sit through Japanese commentary, you go to this one. If they're starting to falter, then that really means WWE must have their binoculars on going, yeah, I'm keeping an eye on this. This could be a venture to go down. It might not be, but in all fairness, we never know. Because WWE does not like competition. They want to be the conglomerate. They already are the conglomerate. But until we see Ring of Honor starting to falter in terms of viewership as well as product, we would be able to say if they would be brought up or not. TNA, definitely I would see it happen, but not soon. And then Ring of Honor, it depends what happens. Catch-us mic work, your last question. Have you ever played any of the WCW or ECW games? Now, I've been in a lot of pre-orders, pre-owned game stores, both of them which have shut up shop now. That's disappointing. I always passed the WCW games. I always passed the ECW ones for the Dreamcast. I always thought, if the WWE games were shit for the Dreamcast, why couldn't I buy one of those? Now, I never did, because I just looked and thought, why should I buy them? Why should I buy those games? And I honestly have thought the same way throughout my fandom. Do I really have the obligation as a wrestling fan to buy those games? Because if I thought No Mercy, around the same time, one of the best wrestling games of all time, was complete shit, then you're wondering, would I find them any good either? So, it to me isn't in my interest to buy them. Oh god. So much drinking. Alright. Largest 85. Your last question. Wait on a second. One. So I think I'm just wondering, have I answered more than 3 of your questions? 1, 2. I had to count this up mid-video. How wondrous am I? No, I have actually answered 3 questions. Holy shit, well, I'm about to answer a 3rd one. Your last question, largest. Have you ever created yourself in a WWE game? Of course. Of course I have. I've always kept my guy very basic, because I've kept him looking the exact same for the past 5-6 years. And I often just promote him as being the best in the game, the best wrestler ever, 50 world titles. Since I've started playing wrestling games, I've kept count of how many times my created character within all my storylines has won a world championship. And it's now reached 50. So all's well, it's good. I mean, honestly, I put him back into the game as an active full-time wrestler. I've got another WrestleMania thing. I gave him a ridiculously good move, where basically he held him, basically got him in a reverse DDT style position, does the cutthroat, lifts him up for what would be a sucker street cutter, and then drops him down straight on his head, right on the top of the cranium. Because if anyone hit that kind of move, you'd not only risk paralysis, but you'd also end a match like that. No one will kick out of it. I've made him the strongest wrestler in the game because in my special little imaginary Fed, he is the legend, the guy who made wrestling. It's basically like Austin, even though we coexisted around the same time in storyline terms. I love the fact that I've been able to create myself, but I hate the fact that at the moment, my guy has done everything, and I literally have nowhere else to stick him in my storylines. So, maybe what I could do is Universe Mode in WWE 13, just make everything as I could and just have him as an authority figure, just keep him as the same, you know? I could, but you never know. Rico 3, actually speaking of WWE 13, Rico 3, who are your top 10 superstars for WWE 13? Who do you want in it the most? Now, obviously, I'd say Benoit, but no, that's never going to happen. As it's an Attitude Era game, and we know that Diamond Dallas Page from the WCW type thing, actually, why isn't he in that one? And we know the New Age Outlaws and X-Pac are going to be in. Full DX Reunion! I would basically confirm already that Mick Foley as Mankind or Cactus Jack will be in this game. I'd love to see him back in. Because as a DLC character, I found that was great, but I want him in the game first off the bat. Attitude Era. Sorry. I'd like to see Stephanie McMahon as a legend diva. And China, for that matter of fact. And Sable. Because if you're going to make Attitude Era, bring back, actually, even Jacqueline. Bring back some of the Attitude Era divas. Even Lita, yeah. Attitude Era divas. That's actually above them as a collective lot. How many have I done now? It's 3 I've done there. Yeah, bring them in. That'll be fun. Gangrel. Just for the hell of it. I'd love to see Gangrel back. Okay, now for people who are not Attitude Era ones, I've just split... No, actually, I put one more in, who is an Attitude Era staple. Al Snow. I don't know, these guys are undercard jobber people, but they were definitely part of it. Hell, even Hardcore Holly, I'd even say. Actually, fuck it, bring back Taz. There are a lot of people. Guys who are not Attitude Era related. Now, I was so happy to have Arn Anderson in last year. Made me think, really, who else could they put in? There's a few other guys I had off the top of my head. Goldberg. Okay, that'll be fun. Great, and Here Comes the Pain. Why not? Why not have him back? I'd love to see them pay homage to one of the greatest of all time and stick Lou Thez in there. Because who wouldn't want to play as one of the pioneers of modern day wrestling in their wrestling game? How awesome would that be? Come on, who would not want to see that? I'd like to also see Tito Santana in, because we've seen Jimmy Swift-Fight Snooker, Ricky Steamboat, great light heavyweights of their time, but Tito Santana, who wouldn't love to see, that's another one, who would not love to see that guy in there? Fun, I would love to see that. Pedro Morales, another name I'd kill to see. I'd also like to see some of their Hall of Famers who just haven't got the time in a game. Maybe I'd even say bring in Toe Funk again, bring in the Freebirds and the Von Erichs as a stable. How fun that would be to have that. Actually, it'll take up a lot of space, but knowing that UFC can go to 90 characters, why not do it this way? I mean, there are a lot of guys. There are a lot of guys I would add in. Bring back Andre for one game. Bring Owen Hart in. Actually, this name just sprung into my head. Brian Pillman. This is more than 10, but I'm just putting a variety of wish list here. Brian Pillman, I probably want more than a lot of people. Juventud. No. One name. Dean fucking Malenko. Now, if Eddie Guerrero is not in the game, and there's just Malenko on his own, I could live with that. Because even though Malenko, Eddie, and Chris had a big relationship, I would kill to have Malenko in the game. He's my number one wish, to have the man of 1,000 holds, Dean Malenko, in there. That is my number one, hands down. Hands down, people. And I hope that's answered some way your question, man. I know it's not a top 10, but I kind of went off on a tangent, and it was definitely well worth it. Wow. For the first time ever, I've gone over an hour and a half. This is a record breaker. And I'm on my last question. Wow. Holy shit. MSDC Punk, I've saved this question for last. Why do you think WWE lacks those colourful, over-the-top characters like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, and Rock, etc.? Is this a conscious effort by the company to tone it down, or is it simply a lack of charismatic characters in the current roster? Let me point this out. It's both. It's both of them, MSDC Punk. Because not a lot of guys have the real drive and passion to make some kind of character work in such a way that you get behind them. That's what charisma does. You get behind a character and you basically follow it and worship it. And in many people's terms, Rock, Macho Man, Hogan, their characters and gimmicks were over the top, inflated, and the crowd went along with it because it was inflated so much. But they're toning it down because I think WWE wants to embrace realism. They want to treat it like an actual sport where you've got guys who are just normal guys going through their little personality traits to them, which makes you either love them or hate them, or they've got a small bit of a gimmick to just basically say, yeah, I'm this guy, you know me, I'm not like those other guys. But they're not over the top because they don't want the gimmicks to overshadow the person. But the only problem they have there is that the person is not being given the time to put themselves over without the use of a gimmick. Hope that makes sense to you, man. They don't want it because they want to seem legitimate, but not many people are willing to give those over-the-top things a chance. Because one guy had to put up with bloody doing Matt Boom. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had to put up with doing Doink the Clown. But just imagine having the balls to do something like that. Actually, Kevin Nash had to do it by portraying Oz, a Wizard of Oz style character in WCW. Sorry about that. You see my point? People nowadays either get to choose their own gimmick and run with it, or they're given something so plain that they really have no avenue of giving something its identity. And they aren't willing or wanting to pull off this stuff. WWE, they don't want it there because they know how much people like me don't like gimmicks like that. Then again, sometimes they are very refreshing, like Cody's Phantom of the Opera style, oh, I'm hideous gimmick. The disfigured one. That actually was when a gimmick properly worked. But, you know, over-the-top gimmicks, some people do work, sometimes they don't. But WWE just doesn't want them there for the preference of style, of actual in-ring style, and you liking the person, getting interested in the person on YouTube, Facebook, because they're trying to keep you in contact with them. Because the gimmick often means if you don't like the aspect of the gimmick, you don't like the wrestler. And they don't want that to happen anymore. So I hope that answers your question, mate. And at 1 hour, 33 minutes, I am finished. Woo! Oh man, I had to take a small break to get some water earlier. I hope that didn't stop any of you from continuing to listen or watch. I thank you and I salute you for keeping this on and staying through to the end. If you've managed to stay through to the end, I salute you with a cheers and a good gulp of water for congratulations' sake. Guys, thank you so much. It's made this the best Q&A I've ever had. And you know what? Next month, we can start this all over again. That's right. All you need to do the same thing as you did before, ask me Q&A questions. And if this Q&A has given you enough consideration to say, I like this guy. Good thought, good opinion. Could be good to see what happens when he reviews Extreme Rules tomorrow morning. You know what you can do, guys? If you haven't done it already, you can click that subscribe button up there. I appreciate it, as always. And also, while you're at it, like Cream Crazy's Wrestling Rant on Facebook and add me on Skype at CreamCrazyWR. I know I should have done this at the beginning of the video, but then again, I'd rather let you guys hear me out before doing this kind of shit. Simple. Right. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you tomorrow morning for the Extreme Rules review. I hope you'll be there for that, because if you're not watching it, or watching on a stream like I am, it'll be good to see what you guys think. Because I hope this pay-per-view does prove to continue where WrestleMania left off, you know? And also, if you guys want to say anything about any of the questions I've answered today, comment section down below, put your opinion in. Very much appreciate your input. Guys, I've been Cream Crazy. You've been people watching. This has been the epic April Q&A. And I will see you in the morning for Extreme Rules Review. Cheers.